Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra. That is Jarvis. And you guys are our fearless supporters who stick around on YouTube each and every day to check out what we're doing here, not just on ATL Day Ones, but on the Locked On Sports Network for Atlanta. And that's why we got over 4,000 subscribers. And we'll get to 5,000 if you guys keep telling people about this show and about this network. And you know what? You don't have to tell them to just check us out on YouTube. You can tell them to check us out wherever they download their podcast. And also, of course, you should tell them that they can check us out on Amazon Fire and Roku. How cool will that be to check us out on the big screen, especially when we are talking about good things in sports around the A, but let's face it, sometimes we have to talk about not so good things. And we kind of knew this was coming, kind of saw that Cordero Patterson was held out of practice last week for rest. And then he was kind of in that questionable space all weekend. He does play. He gets 9 carries, I believe, for 37 yards to really start the run game for the Falcons in the win on Sunday against the Browns. But then you see really the rest of the running back core kind of take over from there. And then, of course, we find out on Monday that he is being placed on IR, He had a knee injury, a procedure that hopefully will keep him out for just maybe 3 to 4 weeks and ultimately get him healthy for the back end of the season. But when you look at what CP was able to do, staying in that top 3 in amongst running backs as far as carries and yards, and ultimately getting the Falcons, yes, we said the Falcons, to be a number 4 rushing team in the league is
What?
mind blowing. So I'm wondering, Jarvis, if there are any concerns that we might have that the Falcons have the guns to do this, can keep this pace, keep this momentum with a Caleb Huntley, who, of course, they elevated from the practice squad and have now added to the 53-man roster, along with Tyler Algier and Avery Williams. Are those guns enough to keep that rushing attack amongst the top 5 or top 10 in the league?
Absolutely. And I give you one reason why I'm so sure about that. Because if the offensive line stays healthy, they'll be fine. Because that's been the key, right? That's I know a lot of people are excited about a practice squad player, undrafted free agent, getting out there and
Mhm.
doing this thing, and the Falcons rookie draftee this year, in Tyler Algier, him coming out there and doing his thing, like, but it starts up front when I tell you, because just going back and kind of looking at the film, you start to see why these guys holes are being opened up. Why Cordell Patterson is being able to break off a 30-yard run before he ends up going down for the rest of the game mostly.
Mhm.
And you see that Kyle Pitts is out here making seal blocks. So Patterson can cut back on that play that he scored
Mhm.
on. So it's just a lot of little things. And Cardell Hodge blocking downfield. That's how these games turn from
Mhm.
10 to 15 yards to 25
Yes.
to 30 to even 40 plus yards.
Yes.
Because wide receivers are blocking downfield. Everybody is bought into this system. And I think you have
Mhm.
to credit not only the offensive line, but you have to credit Arthur Smith for believing in these guys and bringing these guys back. Now I know there's 2 new starters on the offensive line, in Dahlman and Elijah Wilkinson, who has been an excellent addition, by the way.
Really
You
has.
have to, and
Yes.
Tenitra talked to him, chopped it up with him 1-on-1, and that was her choice. She understands what's going on with the Falcons offensive line. So I think that those are some of the couple of things as the reason why I know that they can continue to do this thing.
Yes. And you talk about the new guys, and which is great. That's exciting for the Falcons to getting something out of those new players. But also when you look at something, I saw a stat fly by on Twitter this morning and I just like my eyes just opened up. 97.1 grade for Chris Lindstrom on
Come on now,
Sunday.
come on
90,
now,
the dude was darn near
come on,
perfect
somebody.
on every snap of the game. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So when Jarvis is talking about the fact that this run game goes as goes the O line, Jake
Yes.
Matthews, of course, is your veteran, but
Hmm.
Chris Lindstrom is your heart and soul on that O
Yes.
line. I mean, what he's able to do, and I'm so glad you mentioned it, Jarvis, because oftentimes we do look at the stats and we get excited about the fact that the running backs are able to break for these long runs, or we get excited about the fact that they've got these 5.1 or 5.5 yards per carry. How do you think they even get to the second level to be able to get that kind of burst? You absolutely have to have guys like Chris Lindstrom quietly in the trenches. You'll never see a stat. You'll never see a stat except something like a 97.1 grade from Pro Football Focus that tells you just how bad a guy this Chris Lindstrom is. And that also is encouraging because if you think you have that running back core and an O line that can support him, and to your point, some tight ends and some receivers, because we've seen Drake London spring a guy or two, some
Yes.
receivers and some tight ends that actually believe in the importance of blocking, then I agree with you. I think their running game is going to be quite fine until Cordero Patterson returns. Now, my question is, when he does return, do you think that he'll be ultimately back to form? What does this kind of look like for his entire season? Because when you think about it, not only do you think about it from the perspective of, okay, wow, we're going to have we're going to lose Cordero Patterson for, we're hoping no more than 4 weeks, right? But
Right.
ultimately, my other thought there is this: we're talking about a back that's 31 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing that concerns me as well, because I remember saying in the first game, hey, I'm pretty sure that pitch count was supposed to be less than 20,
Right.
right? And then we
Yeah.
started seeing in game 2 and 3 that the pitch count was much lower. And then he carried the rock under 10 for obvious reasons on Sunday. But yeah, it just made me think, between having to deal with a knee injury coupled with your age, what do you think this means for Cordero Patterson when he does return for the back half of the season?
I think that we got a peek into what it would potentially could look like on Sunday, right? You know, you saw Avery Williams, you saw Tyler Algier, you saw Caleb Huntley get those touches, and I
Mhm.
think that as those guys continue to perform and and execute when given opportunities, that's
Yeah.
kind of that can afford you to not have to rush him back. Once those 4 weeks has passed and you're like, okay, yeah, he's ready, but
Mhm.
we can
Yeah.
ease him back into it, and I think that
Yeah.
that's the thing that Arthur Smith has always been about. He's always been about the player because
Mhm.
Cordell Patterson barely played during the if not
Right,
he
he
didn't
didn't.
play
Yeah.
at all in
Didn't
preseason.
play. Nope.
And when you think about that, and even from a practice standpoint, even in
Mhm.
OTAs, he
Yes,
was he was
yes.
sprinkled in every now and then. So
Mhm.
Arthur Smith, this has been all part of Arthur Smith's plan to make sure he preserves that 31-year-old body. And I think that it's going to be
Mm.
no different once he comes back from IR. And
Yeah.
like I said, I wouldn't be too concerned hardly at all. Once he gets ready to come back.
Agreed. And if there's any possibility that they get Damian Williams back, that could
Yep.
also help that running back room as well. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that to see if he comes back to kind of shore up that room. Now, we've talked about the good. We started yesterday and we kept it positive. We kept it on the sunny side of things. And we've even started today keeping it on the sunny side of things. But hey, there's a little bit of a dark side on Sunday, and that was
Mm-hmm.
called the passing game. No, 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 Jarvis.
Yes.
It was called Marcus Mariota. Okay. 7 for 19 for 139 yards, no touchdown, but an interception. Now, the Falcons still gutted out a win
Yeah.
with them in a surprising tie for first place in the NFC South, right? So you
Right.
have to kind of at least think, like, what could it be for the rest of the season? And Michael, it really made me think about this, especially because I'm a Steelers fan and you know
Mm-hmm.
where we are. We said
Yeah.
bye boy to Mitch Trubisky on Sunday and hello, Kenny Pickett. But our situation might be a little bit different than the Falcons. I remember at the beginning of the season, we were like, okay, it's like that Spider Man meme, right?
Mm-hmm.
Falcons, Steelers, y'all are about what and what with the guy under center. I don't think
Right.
so anymore. I think the Falcon situation is different. So, is it realistic to keep Mariota in place and maybe put yourself in position to have a run at the playoffs? Or are you getting closer to that time where maybe it's time to turn over the reins to Desmond Ritter to find out what he can do? Or do those things have to be mutually exclusive?
To be honest with you, when you look at how this team is constructed, right? Like, I think that if there was a case where they weren't able to run the football like they've been able to do,
Yeah.
I think and you have to throw the football in order to win games.
Yes.
I think that we'll probably see Desmond Ritter. But now that this running game has been established, now that this offensive line is starting to make some noise, it's probably
Hmm.
one of the better offensive line in the NFL. Like,
Yeah.
what did I just say that? Like, I'm speaking Spanish right now, So I think that, when you have all of these determining factors around Mariota, And I think that nothing is going to change for real. Like when you think about it, like why would Arthur Smith change it now? Because he does have some things that he brings to the table when it comes to
Yeah.
play action, right? He's
Mhm.
solid at play action. That's what they're going to do. They're
Yes.
probably one of the most play action inning teams in the
Right.
NFL. Like you can check the stats on that. And you know,
Mhm.
and I think that, those are some of the things that I don't think change. However, Mariota is still doing some of the same things that I pointed out earlier in the season. I know we're still early in the season, but in those first couple of games, like
Mhm.
he got himself into trouble because he
Yes.
was locking down on wide receivers, and he did
Yeah.
that again
Yep.
against in
Yeah.
Cleveland, and when he threw in the double coverage with Drake London, almost got his
Mhm.
head taken off.
Yes.
Drake London should have been very upset for throwing that football right there because that
Mhm.
safety was sitting right there waiting on him to throw it. Because guess what,
Sure was.
Mariota drew him over there because he was
Mhm.
locked in on him. I mean, he
Yeah.
had Kyle Pitts down there in the flats. He could have dump the
Mhm.
ball off and let him see if he can make a play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that until Mariota kind of gets himself out of that and say,
Mhm.
if it's not play action, I need to be able to go through my progressions and
Yes.
find the receiver. Like
Mhm.
if it's not there, what coach told me was supposed to be there. You
Mhm.
need to be able to find somebody else, or guess what? Take off, run it, and go get the first down, or do what you need to do. So, or throw the ball away. That
Away.
has to be an option as well.
Yeah.
So, I think that until all of the surrounding factors start to change,
Mhm.
we're not going to see a change at quarterback.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that as long as everything is copacetic with that run game and that O
Yeah,
line
yep.
stands up,
That's the key to
all
life
they're
right
going
there.
to say is, yeah, exactly. All they're going to say is Marcus Mariota can at least give us about three quarters. Because I tweeted that the first half was actually impressive despite the numbers, right? Despite the
Right.
incompletion.
Yep.
Because what was impressive to me was I saw some patience on the rollout saying, okay, my first read, not there. My second read, not there. I'm going to my third. So I was like, okay, I'm seeing some patience, going through the
Mm-hmm.
progressions. Okay, all
Yep.
right. But then he kind of fell back to center. And that's something
Yeah.
that Arthur Smith and Dave Ragone are going to have to work with him on. Like, you cannot fall back into your bad habits in crunch time. That's the worst
Right.
time for you to be out there with a near fumble again. That's the worst time for you to be barely escaping when you're out of the pocket when everybody else would just either take off or they would just throw it out of bounds. So those are the decision making that really you've seen his entire career that's gotten him. That's the kind of thing that we need to not see in the fourth quarter or really the second half of any game. Now, something that you do want to see is a built bar, because a
Yes.
built bar is something that is going to give you energy. Or let's say you're watching a game on Sunday, a Falcons game against the Bucks, and you start to get a little stressed out. Maybe you should eat a built bar to soothe your pain, because it's a healthy way to really snack at any given time. So right now we're talking cookie dough chunk puffs. That's the big deal. And Jarvis could tell you about that because he definitely
Mm-hmm.
digs those puffs. And he says they're light, they're chewy, and they're real cookie dough. So that means 100% real chocolate. And listen, 160 calories. How many snacks do you know that you can actually get away with where you only burn 160 calories, but you also get 15 grams of protein? Well, this is it. So you can enjoy these guilt free. They're perfect treats after a workout. And even if you're going through traffic and you are getting hungry and you do not want to make that stop at a fast food joint. So go to built.com to order your box of chunk puffs right now. That's built.com. You can use that promo code locked15 and get 15% off that first order. It is promo code locked15 at built.com. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about something as well that, you know what? If it was me, getting what my girl Tiana Taylor got, heck, I'd be locked on and locked in too. We'll talk about it on the other side in For the Culture.